Bruce Lee photo analysis. The warrior's invitation. When scars tell a story. Bruce Lee photo analysis. The warrior's invitation. When scars tell a story. The scratches across Bruce Lee's face in this photograph are impossible to ignore. 3 distinct marks run down his cheek. Evidence of a real fight, a film shoot gone intense, or perhaps a training session that crossed the line between practice and combat. But Lee's expression shows no pain, no concern about the wounds. His face is calm, almost serene, while his body assumes the iconic fighting stance that would become synonymous with his name. The sweat glistening on his torso catches the light, highlighting every muscle fiber, every contour of his legendary physique. Behind him, a gym setting with chains and equipment suggests this moment was captured during serious training. This isn't a posed publicity shot. This is Bruce Lee in his element, marked by battle, ready for more. The universal language of "come here." Bruce Lee's hand gesture in this photograph has become one of the most imitated movements in martial arts cinema history. The beckoning motion, fingers curling inward in a "come here" invitation, is deceptively simple yet loaded with psychological warfare. In traditional martial arts, this gesture serves multiple purposes. It taunts the opponent, disrupts their mental preparation, and establishes dominance before physical contact even begins. Lee understood that fighting began in the mind, and this gesture was designed to make opponents doubt themselves. Should I attack? Is he baiting me? What does he see that I don't? The gesture also reflects supreme confidence. Only someone absolutely certain of their abilities would invite attack so openly. Lee used this move in multiple films, most memorably in Enter the Dragon before his legendary fight scenes. The gesture transcended language barriers, becoming a universal symbol of martial arts challenge that audiences worldwide instantly recognized and understood. The anatomy of a perfect stance. Look closely at Bruce Lee's body positioning in this photograph. It's a masterclass in biomechanical efficiency. His feet are positioned in what martial artists call a side stance, or baijong, in Wing Chun terminology, though Lee modified traditional stances to suit his Jeet Kune Do principles. The front foot points toward the opponent while the rear foot angles outward at roughly 45 degrees, providing maximum stability and mobility simultaneously. His weight appears distributed 60-40 between rear and front leg, allowing for explosive forward movement or quick retreat. His hips are slightly turned, presenting a narrower target profile while keeping maximum power available for strikes. The extended arm maintains distance control, what boxers call range finding, while his rear hand protects his center line. Notice how his shoulders are relaxed despite the ready position. Tension would slow his reactions. His head position is slightly forward, chin down to protect the jaw, yet his gaze is level and steady. Every element of this stance serves a specific tactical purpose, refined through thousands of hours of practice and real combat experience. Battle damage. The price of mastery. Those scratches on Bruce Lee's face tell us something crucial about his approach to martial arts. He didn't just theorize or perform choreographed movements for cameras. He fought, really fought. During his Hong Kong film career, Lee was known for demanding extreme realism in fight scenes, often insisting on actual contact rather than the pulled punches typical of martial arts cinema. His co-stars regularly complained about the bruises and injuries sustained filming with him. Lee's philosophy was simple. If it looked fake, it destroyed the audience's belief in the character's capabilities. These facial scratches might have come from an overly enthusiastic extra with long fingernails, a training partner who momentarily lost control, or even Lee himself pushing a scene beyond what safety coordinators recommended. The fact that filming continued despite visible injuries speaks to the production practices of 1970s Hong Kong cinema. Budgets were tight, schedules demanding, and Lee was famously perfectionist about getting shots exactly right regardless of physical cost. The physique that redefined possibility. Bruce Lee's body in this photograph represents something that puzzled exercise physiologists and strength coaches for decades. How could someone so relatively small generate such devastating power? At 135 pounds, Lee wasn't just lean, he was almost impossibly shredded, with body fat estimated between 3. But unlike bodybuilders who achieve similar conditioning temporarily for competitions, Lee maintained this level year-round while performing explosive athletic movements daily. The secret lay in his revolutionary training approach that combined elements no one else was integrating: traditional martial arts training for technique and speed, Western weight training for raw strength, cardiovascular conditioning for endurance, plyometrics for explosive power, and flexibility work for range of motion. His abdominal development, clearly visible in this side angle, was legendary. 8 distinct segments of rectus abdominis, deeply cut obliques, and a serratus anterior that looked like fingers gripping his ribcage. These weren't merely aesthetic achievements, they represented a functional core capable of generating and transferring tremendous force through kinetic linking. The psychology of the fighting face. Bruce Lee's facial expression in this photograph reveals sophisticated understanding of combat psychology. Despite the scratches marking his face, his expression shows no anger, no aggression, just calm, focused presence. This controlled demeanor is more intimidating than any snarl or aggressive face because it suggests complete emotional regulation, a fighter who makes decisions based on strategy rather than emotion. In his writings, Lee discussed the concept of mushin, or no mind, a state of consciousness where you respond to threats instantly without the delay caused by conscious thought. The face we see here suggests someone in or approaching that state. His eyes are slightly narrowed, maintaining focus while reducing the target area opponents might strike. His jaw is relaxed rather than clenched, preventing the tension that would slow his reactions and telegraph his intentions. Even the slight upward angle of his head suggests confidence without arrogance. He's not looking down at opponents but meeting them eye to eye, acknowledging their threat while remaining unintimidated. The training ground, where legends are forged. The background of this photograph, chains hanging from the ceiling, sparse industrial aesthetic, basic equipment tells us this isn't a fancy modern gym but a serious training facility focused purely on function. These old-school gyms, common in Hong Kong during the 1960s and 70s, were where fighters actually trained rather than posing for social media. The chains visible behind Lee were likely used for strength training, climbing for grip strength and upper body power, or as resistance for martial arts movements. The austere environment reflects a philosophy: eliminate distractions, focus entirely on the work. No mirrors to admire yourself, no comfortable amenities to make training easier, just you, the equipment, and your determination to improve. Lee trained in various locations throughout his career, from his garage in Oakland, to professional gyms in Hong Kong, to custom setups in his own homes. But regardless of location, his approach remained constant, intense, focused, scientific. He kept detailed training logs, documented his progress, experimented with different methods, and constantly refined his approach based on results. Jeet Kune Do stance. Function over form. The stance captured in this photograph embodies the core Jeet Kune Do principle that Lee called economy of motion. Unlike traditional martial arts that emphasized elaborate forms and fixed stances, GKD insisted on the most direct, efficient path to the objective. Lee's positioning here allows him to attack, defend, or evade with minimal preparatory movement. This reflects his famous quote, "Absorb what is useful, discard what is useless, add what is specifically your own." The traditional Wing Chun stance Lee learned from Yip Man emphasized frontal positioning and trapping techniques. Western boxing contributed the importance of footwork and head movement. Fencing taught him about distance and timing. Lee synthesized these influences into something new, a fighting stance that prioritized individual expression within scientific principles. Notice how nothing in his positioning is exaggerated or theatrical. Every element serves practical purpose. This photograph captures JKD, not as theory but as living practice, a body positioned optimally for the chaos of real combat. The sweat of 10,000 hours, the perspiration visible on Bruce Lee's body in this photograph represents more than momentary exertion. It symbolizes the countless hours he invested in perfecting his craft. Malcolm Gladwell would later popularize the concept of 10,000 hours required for mastery, but Lee understood this principle instinctively decades earlier. He trained obsessively, often 6-8 hours daily, broken into multiple sessions focusing on different aspects: morning cardio, afternoon technique work, evening strength training, plus additional flexibility work and meditation. This work ethic stemmed partly from his philosophical beliefs about self-actualization and partly from practical necessity. He was competing in an industry and art form where second best meant failure. The physical exhaustion evident in this photograph was Lee's normal state during his Hong Kong film period. He would train before shoots, film intensely physical scenes all day, then return to training in the evening. This relentless schedule contributed to his eventual collapse and death, but it also forged the legend we remember: the invitation to combat, psychological warfare. That beckoning gesture Bruce Lee makes in this photograph is more than showmanship. It's calculated psychological manipulation. By inviting attack, he forces opponents into a decision paradox: attack and potentially fall into a trap, or refuse and appear cowardly. Either way, he controls the mental frame of the encounter. This tactic appears throughout martial arts history in various forms. Miyamoto Musashi wrote about techniques to disturb opponents' rhythm and composure. Muhammad Ali's trash-talking served similar purposes. Lee's genius was making this psychological warfare visual and cinematic, translating sophisticated combat concepts into images that audiences instinctively understood even without martial arts training. The gesture also reflects supreme confidence. You don't invite attack unless you're certain you can handle whatever comes. This confidence wasn't arrogance but rather accurate assessment of his capabilities based on years of training and testing. Lee regularly sparred with practitioners from various disciplines, constantly pressure testing his techniques against resistance. The beckoning gesture is backed by proven ability, not empty bravado.
The film set is Battlefield. This photograph likely dates from Lee's Golden Harvest period, when he was making the films that would cement his global legacy: The Big Boss, Fist of Fury, Way of the Dragon, and Enter the Dragon. The production environment was intense and dangerous by modern standards. Limited safety equipment, minimal special effects, and Lee's insistence on realism meant actors regularly sustained injuries. The scratches on his face might have resulted from a scene where safe choreography broke down under the speed and intensity of actual performance. Lee could execute movements so quickly that even trained martial artists struggled to react appropriately during filming. He famously had to slow down his techniques so cameras could capture them at full speed. His movements blurred on film. This created unique challenges for fight choreography. How do you make something look real when the reality is too fast to see? Lee's solution was to combine actual speed in certain moments with dramatically enhanced technique in others, creating fight scenes that felt real while remaining visually comprehensible to audiences. The warrior's mark, beauty in battle scars. Those 3 scratches running down Bruce Lee's face transformed this photograph from simple documentation to something more profound. Evidence that martial arts mastery requires physical sacrifice. In traditional warrior cultures, scars were marks of honor, proof of experience earned through actual combat. Lee's willingness to continue working despite visible facial injuries reflects his total commitment to his craft and vision. Modern film productions would halt immediately for such visible injuries, either waiting for healing or using makeup and digital effects to conceal damage. But in 1970s Hong Kong, with tight budgets and demanding schedules, filming continued. This photograph captures that moment when the line between actor and actual fighter blurred. Lee wasn't just pretending to be a martial artist for cameras, he was a martial artist who happened to be filmed. The injuries remind us that his legendary status wasn't merely about choreographed cinema magic, but was grounded in genuine martial capability, developed through years of hard, often painful training and application. The legacy of a single gesture. 50 years after this photograph was taken, Bruce Lee's beckoning gesture remains instantly recognizable worldwide. It's been imitated in countless films, television shows, video games, and by millions of martial arts students and fans. Why did this particular movement become so iconic? Because it encapsulates everything Lee represented: confidence, skill, directness, and a refusal to back down from challenges. The gesture appears simple, but carries layers of meaning: a challenge, an invitation, a statement of dominance, a psychological tactic. It works across all languages and cultures, communicating instantly without words. This universality was key to Lee's global impact. He transcended barriers of language, culture, and race through physical expression that everyone could understand. The beckoning gesture became shorthand for martial arts excellence, a visual symbol that communicated "I am ready for whatever you bring," with elegant simplicity. The philosophy made flesh. This photograph captures Bruce Lee at the intersection of Eastern philosophy and Western pragmatism that defined his approach to martial arts and life. The calm expression despite facial injuries reflects Buddhist principles of non-attachment. Pain is temporary, ego is illusion, only the present moment truly exists. His ready stance embodies Taoist Wu Wei, effortless action, being prepared without forcing, responding naturally to whatever arises. Yet his scientific training methods and analytical approach to combat reflect Western empiricism: test everything, keep what works, discard what doesn't. This fusion of Eastern and Western thinking was revolutionary in the 1960s and 70s, when most people saw these traditions as incompatible opposites. Lee proved they could not only coexist, but could synthesize into something more powerful than either alone. The warrior we see in this photograph isn't just physically prepared but mentally and spiritually integrated, body and mind operating as one unified system. Final reflection, the eternal challenge. This black and white photograph freezes a moment, but the energy it captures is timeless. Bruce Lee stands ready, scratched and sweating, gesturing "come here" to an unseen opponent, or perhaps to all of us. The challenge isn't just physical but existential. Are you willing to face what frightens you? Will you test yourself beyond comfortable limits? Can you remain calm when injured, focused when exhausted, confident when challenged? Lee's legacy transcends martial arts to address fundamental questions about human potential and self-actualization. The beckoning gesture invites not just combat but growth, not just fighting but transformation. Every person who sees this photograph and feels inspired to push their own boundaries, to test their own limits, to become more than they currently are, that person accepts Lee's invitation. The scratches on his face remind us that growth is rarely comfortable, mastery is never achieved without cost, and greatness requires willingness to endure what others avoid. Yet his calm expression assures us that this price, though real, is worth paying for the transformation that awaits on the other side of our limitations.